Warm welcome, dear history and martial arts enthusiasts. Welcome to my channel where we explore the fascinating world of historical fencing arts, medieval warfare and their artifacts. And yes, I know. It's been a while, as you can easily see from the shots in the snow in this video. I'm just very busy right now, but promise you I have more content planned on my channel this summer. But anyway, today, as previously announced, I have something very special for you. An authentic real longsword from the late 16th century. So let's dive together into the past and take a closer look at this impressive piece of history. But before we delve into the details, I would like to briefly set the historical context for our piece today. We are in the second half of the 16th century, an era of profound change in Europe. It is the age of the Renaissance and marks a significant break from the late Middle Ages. This century not only brings further cultural flowering, but also transforms the battlefield in previously unseen ways. The decline of traditional chivalry, a process that was almost completed in the late Middle Ages, reached its climax in this era. That was due to several factors: the emergence of the Landsknecht armies, significant advances in weapon technology, increased political consolidation of territorial rulers, and the emerging economic power of urban centers. In the midst of this maelstrom of change, our exhibit of today enters the stage. A two-handed longsword of impressive appearance, whose roots likely lie in the German or Italian arms forges of this epoch. In this period, longswords like this one were not exclusively service weapons, but also symbols of status and power. They were wielded by high-ranking soldiers and nobility. However, we should avoid confusion here. Alongside these weapons were many great battle swords that strengthened the ranks between the pikemen of the Landsknecht armies. Although these were basically used for similar reasons, they were not used as support weapons but as primary weapons. If anyone is interested, I've already published an article years ago that examines the use of large battle swords in the field in precisely this era in more detail. Our piece, however, is a bit smaller than the classic battle sword of this time. Such types were certainly not standard on the battlefield, nor did they play a significant role. The primary weapons in use were long pikes and firearms, combined with tactical cavalry attacks and bombardment by cannons. Nevertheless, we can discover these swords in illustrations as a side weapon of officers and sometimes at the belt of well-equipped soldiers. Moreover, the sword was traditionally used as the preferred weapon alongside the Spießrutenlauf when it came to deadly sentences. The longsword was thus, alongside the Katzbarger or a side sword, a secondary weapon in the turmoil of battle. What is important to know is that, since even at this time the armament of the soldiers was primarily a personal affair, it can be concluded that the choice of secondary weapon was more of a matter of a personal taste, wealth, or corresponded to one's own training. I would also like to point out that within the urban levies or the structure of the Landsknecht camps, a soldier could not hope for training in the craft of arms. Just as military service itself appeared to be a private legal matter, so too was training to be a mercenary. Thus, the aspiring servants and soldiers depended on, for example, individual training from professional fencing masters and their schools. On the other hand, of course, the assembled armies were not a motley bunch, as the army soldiers list had clear specifications as to which soldiers were wanted for military service. One thing can be said with certainty: whoever chose this weapon and strapped it to his hip, he could very likely fence with it and was practiced in the handling of the longsword. But before we start swinging the weapon ourselves, let's take a quick look at some technical data. The total length of this piece is 130.2 cm with a blade length of 100.1 cm. The weight is 1,682 grams and the center of mass is approx 10 cm behind the guard. The 220 mm wide hilt has two guard rings. The 10 mm thick crossguard was bent into an S shape. Copper decorations were applied in three places, namely at the end of the crossguard and on the pear-shaped and 53 mm long pommel. The pommel is also not perfectly round, but measures 49 to 46 mm with the larger dimension being measured on the cutting axis. The blade has a width of 40 mm and the thickness of 8 mm at the cross and tapers to 24 and 2.5 mm shortly before the end, and about 20 mm in front of it. We discover also a fuller almost up to the point, and on the crossguard 4 additional, approx 6 cm long grooves for decoration. You can also recognize the forge marks at this point. Unfortunately, I was unable to find out which forge these marks belong to. I have searched through various specialists' literature without any results. Perhaps one of you has an idea. I would be grateful for any concrete information. What to say about the overall condition? The usage marks on the hilt are really special. There are tiny nicks on the guard, presumably from enemies' blades. But there are only few of them. But I consider blade against blade what would cause such damage to be rather rare in a battle anyway. Such violent field scenarios are very different from duel situations. What we do find, however, are clear signs of wear on the edge. A blade that probably carries a very bloody history with it. The tip is possibly reworked, maybe even shortened or broken off at some point, because the fuller is also much too close to the tip. I suspect the sword was once a few centimeters longer. Now, how can this wonderful piece actually be handled? Let's see. What I immediately liked about the sword was a comfortable pear-shaped pommel. In combination with a really pleasant cutting behavior, fencing with this blade is really fluid. You can not only swing through, but also interrupt your motion with ease and change the trajectory easily. This is a really important feature of a sword if you want to successfully feint another single fighter. However, you really have to be careful with the blade alignment so that the blade remains stable along the longitudinal axis and does not bend when redirecting the cut. Because if this happens, the thin blade wobbles a lot. With regards to this compromise, the blade is rather something for the experienced fighter, I would say. The sensitive blade does not forgive a bad blow, but rewards you with a nice buzz if you align the blade correctly. Whether the blade forms a good dominance in the binding is questionable, because I find the blade characteristics more suitable for fast, targeted blows than strong binding work. But I suspect a good compromise has been found here. It must also be said that the blade has suffered somewhat over the years and has become increasingly thinner due to corrosion and sharpening repairs. The tip was probably also a little longer in the past. Basically, it is always a crucial question to consider when designing a blade. Dominance in the binding, dynamics, handling, and reach through the length of the blade. You have to find a good balance, especially for your own needs. With this sword, we find a fast blade with acceptable characteristics and reach and control of the binding. Even if you can't really test such a real piece in combat, that would be my guess. Alright, we are now coming to the end of this video, and I have to say, it's something very special to hold a real sword in your hands. All the better if you have the opportunity to keep the blade for a few weeks for examinations and even to experiment with it outdoors. Such experiences fuel the fascination, or especially mine, for the historical arts enormously and are one of those special moments in a long phase of discovery and insights of historical martial arts. Okay, I hope you enjoyed looking at this beautiful piece with me. If you liked it, leave a like or a sub. Until next time, your Björn.